All right, let's talk about something we all know a little too well. That feeling, that urge to just put something off until later. Today, we're going to dive deep into the science of why our brains do this, and way more importantly, what we can actually do to fight back.
In fact, let me just ask you this right now. Be honest. Is there something else you probably should be doing instead of watching this? If you just nodded, or even thought about nodding, don't worry. You are in the perfect place, because what you're about to learn might just be the most productive thing you do all day.
First things first, we've got to get one huge misconception out of the way. Procrastination is not laziness. It's not some kind of moral failure. No, it's actually a war that is raging inside your head. And the first step to winning any war is understanding the battlefield.
So let's make this crystal clear. Laziness, that's just apathy. You don't want to do it, you've got no plans to do it, end of story. But procrastination, that's totally different. That's avoidance. You know you should do it, you might even really want to have it done, but some invisible force is holding you back from just starting.
You know that voice in your head? The one that says, I really, really should, but I'm just not going to. Well, that's it. That's the first shot being fired in this internal battle. It's the signal that two parts of your brain are in a serious tug-of-war.
So who exactly is fighting in this war? Well, it's time to meet the two bosses inside your head who are constantly duking it out for control.
Okay, so on one side, you've got the rational boss. That's your prefrontal cortex. It's the new, highly evolved part of your brain that thinks about the future and makes long-term plans. And on the other side, you've got the emotional boss, your limbic system. This thing is ancient, it's powerful, and it only cares about one thing, feeling good and safe right now. And here's the real kicker. The emotional boss is way stronger. It's not even a fair fight.
And here's the problem. Your ancient limbic system, it hasn't really updated its software in a few thousand years. It can't tell the difference between the stress of an angry email and the stress of, say, a saber-toothed tiger. So when it senses any negative feeling about a task, boredom, anxiety, confusion, it doesn't see a future goal. It sees a current threat. And its only move is to get you to run away.
So this battle, this internal conflict, it almost always leads to the same place. That sneaky little truce we make with ourselves. I'll just do it later.
And this, right here, is the most important thing to understand. Procrastination is not a time management problem. Let me say that again. It has nothing to do with time management. It's an emotion regulation problem. You're not actually trying to avoid the work. You're trying to avoid the bad feelings associated with the work. You're basically choosing to feel better now over achieving your goal later.
And this is the lie our brain whispers to make it all okay. Don't worry, it says. I'll totally feel like doing this later. The moment you make that decision to put it off, you get this wave of relief. It feels so good. And your brain goes, see? Great decision. It then makes this wildly optimistic and totally false prediction that your future self is going to be some kind of superhero of motivation.
But yeah, let's be real. The science on this is about as subtle as a brick. You won't. Your brain is a terrible fortune teller. The odds are overwhelming that when later finally shows up, you're going to feel just as unmotivated as you do right now. Except now you'll also have the joy of a looming deadline. Okay, so if we can't trust our feelings, and we definitely can't trust our brain's predictions about the future, what on earth do we do? Well, this is where we stop trying to win with brute force and start using some clever tools.
First, let's just toss the whole idea of more willpower right into the trash. Research shows willpower is like a muscle, or maybe a phone battery. It gets tired, it runs out. Every time you resist checking social media, you use a little bit of it. Relying on willpower to get you through a tough task is like starting a road trip with a quarter tank of gas. It's a losing strategy.
So instead of going head-to-head with the much stronger emotional brain, your rational brain has to be smarter. It needs to play chess, not checkers. It needs to use its amazing ability to plan ahead and set up systems, tools that outsmart your impulses before they even wake up.
So what's the best tool in the shed? Well, researchers have given it a really fancy-sounding name, implementation intentions. But don't let that scare you. All it really means is giving your brain a simple, pre-programmed command, just like you'd program a computer. It boils down to a simple if-then statement. First, you get really specific about your trigger.
What's the exact thought or feeling that starts the procrastination train? That's your if. For example, if I think to myself, this is too overwhelming, then you decide in advance on a tiny, almost laughably easy first step. That's your then. So, then I will just open the document and write one single sentence. By making the decision ahead of time, you completely short-circuit that moment of hesitation where your emotional brain usually hijacks the system.
All right, your next tool is less about brain hacks and more about just being ruthless. You have to make procrastination harder to do than your actual work. This means you eliminate distractions without mercy. Turn your phone off and put it in another room. Use an app to block distracting websites. Close every single tab that isn't related to your task. You want to make doing the right thing the easiest possible choice.
Okay, so we've got the science, we've got the tools. How do we pull this all together into a real, honest-to-goodness strategy?
Now, this last tool might be the most important, and I know it's going to sound a little weird. It's self-forgiveness. Study after study shows that beating yourself up over procrastinating just piles on more guilt and shame. And what does your emotional brain do with those negative feelings? It sees the task as an even bigger threat next time. Forgiving yourself for messing up actually breaks that vicious cycle.
So here it is. This is your 3-part toolkit to fight back. First, you plan. You create those specific if-then rules for your brain. Second, you eliminate. You mercilessly remove any and all distractions. And third, you forgive. When you inevitably slip up, because you're human, you forgive yourself and just get back to the plan. Plan, eliminate, forgive. That's it.
So there you have it. You now understand the war in your brain, and you have a concrete 3-step strategy to actually win it. The science is on your side, the tools are in your hand, so the only question left is, what's that one thing you were putting off? And what's the first tiny step you're going to take?
El eso, el gossip, que